Welcome to this webinar. The topic is the human mind, the collective mind, the cosmic consciousness. And I'm Dada Rainjitananda. So I will do a presentation which will take about 35 to 40 minutes. And after that, you have time for questions. You can already type your questions in the chat window, so I can look through them during the webinar, and I might answer them during the webinar itself or at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let's get started. We are talking about the human mind, so the human being. I will call the human being the microcosm, the small cosm, in comparison to the macrocosm, the big cosmic, the great cosmic. So a human being has three aspects. Physical aspect, that's easy to understand, our physical body. Then we have the mind. The mind is not the brain. The brain is in the physical body. The mind is something subtle, is the thoughts, the different thoughts are happening in our mind. We cannot see the mind, we can see the brain. The next aspect of the human being is beyond the mental. It transcends the mental, and we call it spiritual. It relates to something deeper than just thoughts, than just thinking. So the physical aspect. Our body is made of cells, many cells. And these cells are made of the food that we eat. Therefore, it's very important to eat the right food. And what is the right food? Is the food that is good for the body and also good for the mind. It is not enough for the food to be good for the body, means healthy or increases the body. It also has to be good for the mind, has to promote mental health. Now, what is mental health? If we are feeling good, happy, in peace, that means our mind is healthy. If our mind is very disturbed, we cannot concentrate, too many thoughts, anxieties, so many other things, then we can say the mind is not healthy. So there is a kind of food that helps the mind to remain in a balanced state. There are other types of food that stimulates the mind or that creates a static influence in the mind, and that type of food we avoid. Okay, today's program or today's webinar is not on the food, so I'm not going to details on that. I just wanted to emphasize that food is very important because it builds the body cell by cell. Now, the other thing is the human mind. The human mind is what I can say, or I can call microcosm, the unit microcosm. Unit here means the individual microcosm, plus the collection of all the minds of all the cells. So each cell has a mind. Now you see the importance of the food, because the food is building each cell. So the food is creating so many minds that are within our structure. And all those minds have an effect on our own mind. So we can say that the human mind is a collective mind. It means the mind of all the cells plus our unit mind. So our unit mind is influenced by the minds of all the cells, and the minds of all the cells is influenced by our unit mind. So this is an important concept here. So we have the human mind. We think it's just that, but that human mind is also connected to all the minds of all the cells of our body. So it is related, our unit mind or our individual mind is related to each of those entities, of those individual minds. And all those individual minds have a relationship with our unit mind. So now we want to develop the mind. So we want to promote human development. What do we need to do? If the human being is physical, mental or psychic, and spiritual, so we need a practice that is physical, psycho, spiritual. That will be a complete practice for the development of the human being in all its aspects. So, what about this practice? We know that our entity, our psychic entity, our mind, here I'm calling it micropsychic entity, means the small psychic entity, the individual mind. It's a collection of many minds. The mental substance, we call it ectoplasm. So our human mind is a collection of many ectoplasms, all put together. These ectoplasms, where do they come from? They come from the cosmic ectoplasm. The cosmic is the macropsychic. So our small ectoplasms, our collection of ectoplasms, they emanate from the cosmic ectoplasm. And that cosmic ectoplasm or cosmic mind comes from the Supreme Spirit. Therefore, our micropsychic entity also emanates indirectly from the macro spirit. So that's the origin of our mind. Our mind, individual mind, comes from the cosmic mind. And the cosmic mind comes from the cosmic consciousness. So changing into how it is in the picture, the micropsychic ectoplasms, they emanate from the macropsychic ectoplasm. And that emanates from the macro spirit. How to develop the mind? You have to give food to the mind. This food is called psychic pabula. Pabula is just like food, psychic, or you're giving a psychic food to the mind. So what psychic pabula to give? We have to give the psychic pabula that helps us to think in a correct way. Now let's develop on that. We also have to give proper guidance to the micropsychic ectoplasms to make it move in a certain direction. Which direction? Okay, we are human beings. What do we want as human beings? As human beings, we do so many things, but what is really the motivation? What is the motivation that takes us to go and meet a certain individual, avoid another individual, go to a certain place for holidays, not to go to another place? Wherever we go, whatever we do, whoever we meet, we want to feel some happiness or some peace. We want to feel good. So human beings want that happiness, that peace. The other question is, for how long do we want that? If I ask anyone, okay, you want to be happy for how many minutes or how many days, how many hours? People usually say always, forever, all the time. So that means something unlimited, something infinite. We are searching for something infinite. So human beings have this desire for something infinite. And what is infinite? We know that the physical world is limited, so nothing in the physical world is infinite. In the mental world, if we search for infinite in the mental world, it means the mind goes expanding towards the infinite, expanding and expanding until it becomes infinite. And if the individual mind becomes infinite, means it merges with the cosmic, because infinite, there is only one. And that infinite is the cosmic consciousness, the cosmic entity. That's infinite. So, knowingly or unknowingly, every human being wants that infinite happiness. Consequently, it wants that supreme consciousness, that macro spirit. So, what is the proper guidance to the mind to make the mind move towards the cosmic? So, that proper guidance comes in terms of philosophy, science, and all branches of human knowledge. We need to let human beings know that there is a philosophy that can promote the welfare of millions of people. So let people know that there are physical, psycho, spiritual practices that can benefit all the humanity. So that's the guidance to the human mind. Give the physical, psycho, spiritual practice and give the knowledge about how to do this practice. So this physical, psycho, spiritual process or practice can remove the defects in the psychic world. Means whatever imperfection is in our psychic world can be removed. Consequently, it will also remove defects in the external world, because if the psychic world is free of defects, it will promote an external world that is better. And that will enable human beings to move towards the spiritual world. And there will be no delays, nothing to hamper that development. So that is the spiritual movement from physical to psychic, from psychic to spiritual. So the movement towards the spiritual goal helps to establish a good physical and a good psychic world. and that benefits human beings. It promotes service to the people. But this movement does not happen automatically. It doesn't happen by itself. The movement depends on practice. If we want to develop the physical body, if we want to develop our muscles, if we want to be in good physical shape, we have to do good exercises, have good food. So, in the same way, if we want to develop our mind, we also have to practice, we have to do something. So, there is a practical process. There are different techniques that one will practice daily, and that will develop the human individual mind. That will develop all the ectoplasms in the human mind. Uh, we have a process called the 16 points, which I'm not going to talk about now, but I just wanted to mention there are 16 practical points, 16 techniques that one applies in one's daily life, and that develops the human mind and the body. The body is, in fact, the most external aspect of the human being, followed by the mind. So, to develop this whole structure, human structure, there is this practical process called the 16 points. We'll have future webinars on this topic. So, spirituality starts as a practice, means we do something, and that practice that we do expands our mind. This expansion takes our mind from merely psychic to psycho-spiritual, and then to purely spiritual. So that is a practice. Develops the whole being, all aspects, physical, mental, and spiritual. Okay, so that was about the human mind, this collection of ectoplasms that form the human mind, the unit microcosm, and the minds of all the cells of our body. So, how to develop it? Through spirituality as a practice. So, that's the human mind. Now, let's shift to talk about the collective mind. Imagine humanity. So many human beings, each one having his or her own mind. When we put all that together, we have the collective mind of humanity. This collective mind of humanity is a collection of so many individual minds. And you know, this collective mind has different flavors in different countries. If you go to different countries, you can feel the collective mind of that country and the collective mind of another country, and you can feel differences in those collective minds. But what is happening in the world now with the internet, with all the way people communicate nowadays, cell phones, and it is bringing all these minds close together, and it is enabling the creation of this collective mind of the whole humanity. This whole humanity in this planet is developing this collective mind. So there are values, there are attitudes in this collective mind. How to develop this collective mind? We saw that to develop the individual mind, we have spirituality as a practice. To develop the collective mind, we have spirituality in essence. This stage of spirituality in essence is related to the psychic and spiritual strata. So let's consider the entire human race. It has a collective mind. This mind is not the cosmic mind, it's different. The cosmic mind is something else. We may talk about the cosmic mind later on. So we are talking about the mind of this whole human race, and that is the collective mind. How to change it? How to develop it? We have to change the mental flow of the collective mind of humanity and create a new wave of thought in it. So, because of the way the collective mind of humanity is today, our planet is in this way. If that can be changed, then life in this planet can be changed. So, what's the present situation? We have humans trying to satisfy their psychic desires with limited objects. Means people are very much materialistic nowadays. Everybody, not everybody, but let's say the majority is looking for gratification of their desires by using objects. It can be so many objects, so many electronic things, movies, and how to say, food. All these are limited objects. They have some, how to say, temporary nature. So because people are trying to get all these limited objects, to accumulate them, that is creating conflict. Conflict between people, conflict between groups of people. So when we look at the world, we see there are wars, there are, how to say, conflicts here, conflicts there, within countries, in between different people from different religions, and like this, and so many conflicts are there. Why it's happening? Because of this unrestrained search to satisfy one's psychic desires with limited objects. Let's say that that's the collective psychology nowadays. And this collective psychology arises from the human minds. And here there is the adjective objectified, means the human mind directed towards the objects. So it is externalized, an externalized mind that's utilizing the sensory and motor organs to deal with the objects of the world. So now what is the result of this collective psychology? There is social inequality, there is economic exploitation, political repression, religious intolerance, perversion of the culture, so many side effects of this collective psychology. So, because of the way the collective mind of humanity is today, this is happening. So, there is a degradation of the individual and also of the society because everybody is looking towards material things. Material things do not satisfy, create conflict, and degenerate the society. So, how to change it? If the food for the mind means the psychic pabula is crude, means it's physical, that's the problem will be created. Degeneration, downfall. So if we apply this spiritual essence, then we'll change the psychic mind, the collective psychic mind. So we have to apply a process to change the collective ectoplasm of all humanity. So what is that collective ectoplasm? You see, so many human beings, collection of ectoplasms form the collective psychic mind of humanity. So that is where the change has to happen. So the global thought process of humanity has to be changed. And the collective spirit has to be strengthened. We need to understand that we are all together in this planet. There is limited wealth. We have to share this wealth. And it's not the limited wealth of the world that is going to satisfy our thirst for infinite. So our thirst for infinite has to be directed towards the spiritual side. And in the existential side, we have to share the wealth. So developing the collective mind. If the mind of a number of people is changed through practice, as they move towards spirituality or the realization of oneness, so then if a number of people is changing their mind in that way, is adding spirituality to their mind, that will start changing the collective mind. And if there is a change in the collective mind, then it will be difficult that the exploitation of people will continue. You know, nowadays, people are exploited economically, physically, in all aspects by other people, thinking that by doing that, they will be satisfied. But the result is they are not satisfied, and the other people are uh, having more problem. They are being exploited and suffer from that exploitation. So these words are from Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar. So this is spiritual essence. A change in the humanity. So if that change happens, if in the collective mind of humanity, then the flow of the humanity, it will be spiritual. Like today, the flow is material. Even if any of us want to do meditation, it is difficult because the society is not conducive for meditation. There are no places for meditation. There is no encouragement for meditation. But if that changes, then even people, anybody in society will be encouraged to spiritual practice. So that's a big change. And when that happens, that the main flow will be towards spirituality, then every exploitation will cease because humanity itself will be a powerful weapon, a weapon that will eliminate exploitation. So how to do that? Education is very important. Today we go to kindergarten and school, university, graduation, post-graduation, and we learn very little about our human existence. We don't get any encouragement for spirituality. So there needs a change in the education. Education has to awaken human beings to what they really are, what we are really looking for. It's not just education to build a bridge, to build buildings, to make this, to make that, to memorize this and memorize that. It's all in the physical aspect. We need to educate to develop the human being, all its aspects. We need to incorporate deeper spiritual practices, like, for example, Ashtanga Yoga, into the curriculum of all grades. Means you start with simple practices, and as you go ahead, you develop and you do more elaborated practices, more complicated practices to develop the human being. So what's the guiding philosophy? This universe is ours. Ours, humans, animals, plants, all beings. So this universe is ours. So we have to live here in the best way possible. And we have to develop ourselves, understand the universe, understand who we are, what's our relationship with the universe, and not only with the physical universe, but our relationship with the universal consciousness. So what are the causes of degeneration? If there is no movement, you know, imagine a stream, a river. As long as it's flowing, the water is clear, clean, crystalline. If it becomes stagnated, then the water becomes dirty and dark. So lack of movement is the problem. Movement in the physical, movement in the psychic sphere. That's one problem. What's the other problem? Overaccumulation. That's also stagnation. If you are accumulating too much in the physical and psychic level, then you are having physical problems and psychic problems. So lack of movement, overaccumulation. These are the problems. Lack of movement in the mind is caused by dogma. What is dogma? Limited idea. Is something which has no movement, an idea which doesn't change, which remains as is, makes the mind inert, static, dormant. That's dogma. Has no logic, no reason. Just believe it, just follow it. And it affects the speed of everybody. So we think, oh, my ancestors were doing this from time immemorial, so we'll continue doing it. It doesn't make sense. We continue doing what makes sense, what is progressive, what helps humanity, and we stop doing what is old and outdated. So dogma has to be eliminated. We have to keep away from all religious and scientific dogma, and the value should be the human value. We are human beings. What is beneficial for human beings, that has value. What enhances human qualities, compassion, love, that has value. In this aspect comes a theory called the progressive utilization theory. Prout. It's a theory for the welfare in the physical level. According to Prout, the collective welfare depends on the individuals, and the individual welfare depends on the collectivity. So it's interdependent. So if we ensure individual comforts, everybody should have food, clothes, housing, medical treatment, all the education. So if we promote the individual welfare, motivated by the spirit of collective welfare, It's not like they promote the individual selfishness, but the real individual welfare. And the spirit is that we want collective welfare. For collective welfare, we have to promote individual welfare. In that way, we are developing the collective mind. We're developing social awareness. We encourage the spirit of social service and awaken knowledge. It's very important to know why we are here, to know where we are going, to know how to develop ourselves, how to promote a good society. So that same idea. The inspiration is the thought of welfare of the collective mind. And for that, promote the well-being of the individual mind. You see, every being in the planet is important. And we cannot just promote our own welfare thinking that that's enough. Because if there is not a collective welfare, then there is a problem in the collective mind of humanity. If there is a problem in the collective mind of a humanity, the problem will reflect on us too, because we are part of this humanity. So it's not enough just to think about my own spiritual development. We have to think about the development of the whole collective mind. And for that, we need spiritual morality. And we need spiritual human beings, spiritual individuals. So, awaken the spirituality in individuals to create collective welfare. And that's the idea of PROUD, the progressive utilization theory. It's not enough to just develop a few people, the leaders. No, we have to develop the entire society. And this potential, this infinite potential, is in every human being. Means every human being has the potentiality. Every human being has the possibility to develop themselves physically, mentally, and spiritually. Now we have to harness this potentiality. All right, so that was the collective mind. How we'll develop the collective mind of humanity? Through spirituality in essence. How we'll develop the individual? Through spirituality as a practice. So develop the individual, develop the collective mind. And then let's talk about the cosmic consciousness. The cosmic consciousness is the macrocosm, the individual consciousness is the microcosm. So the first stage was the individual, the second stage, the collective mind. Now the third stage, we move towards the cosmic consciousness. And here, the first one was spirituality as a practice, the second is spirituality in essence, and the last one is spirituality as a mission. So the first is cult or practice, the second is essence, and the third is mission. Now, we'll talk about something more abstract, something related to the cosmic. This cosmic order has a nucleus. It's the existential nucleus. So everything is emanating from this existential nucleus. Means from this cosmic nucleus comes the universe. The universe is created from this cosmic existential nucleus. So that's the source. The existential nucleus of every individual is connected with that cosmic existential nucleus. So there is this connection between the microcosm and the macrocosm, the individual nucleus and the cosmic nucleus. So what is the goal? The goal is to coincide the unit, the individual existential nucleus with the cosmic existential nucleus. They become one, like a drop of water merges in the ocean. The micro, the drop, and merges into the macro, the ocean. So that's the final. Can we do it? Yes, that's our destiny. So, spirituality as a mission, that's the final stage. How to reach it? Channelize the psychic urges of the individual and of the collective towards the supreme. So, it's a process of channelization, a process of changing the direction. How to do it? There is a practice, and that practice is yoga. What is the meaning of the word yoga? It means unification. Unification of the unit with the cosmic, unit consciousness with the cosmic consciousness, the drop with the ocean. So when the unit becomes one with the cosmic, that's yoga. And that is when spirituality as a mission is reached, is attained. In that unification, imagine each individual is like a river. This river is flowing to the ocean. At a certain point, the river reaches the ocean, merges into the ocean. It loses its identity. It's not the river anymore, it's the ocean now. So when the river is in contact with the sea, it's no more river. It's now the sea, the ocean. So getting back, summarizing the webinar, we start from the unit mind, individual mind. We have to develop it. Then we work with the collective mind of humanity, also has to develop. And what's the final? The final is merging to the cosmic consciousness. And only then humans will be satisfied. Only then society will be balanced. Okay, so that is the presentation. And now we have some time for questions. You can type your questions.